21st of July, Rabbi Moore, Parsha Hashavua with Rashi.
Okay. Okay. We got ended abruptly yesterday. And I don't think we quite finished the Rashi on the Pasuk base. Lou's gone out, has he?
Yeah, I think I was in the middle of reading when it stopped.
Right. So just read the end, Dava Acher, in the end of the Rashi, Rashi's second explanation on Zeh HaDava.
Okay, let's see. Davar Acher, alternatively, Zeh HaDavar Mi'ut Hu. This phrase, "this is the matter," is a phrase that implies exclusion. Lomar, to say to us, Shehe Chacham Bilashon Hatara, that a sage revokes a vow through wording of permitting.
Of what? How did he say he would use HaTorah?
Wording of permitting.
Permitting. Okay, it's not quite, I understood a bit of it. It means he releases the vow. He unties it. There's a Lashon HaKodesh and Chazal, you use kosher on the melach of Shabbos. There's a melach of kosher, tying two things together. And the opposite is matir, to untie.
Mm-hmm.
It means rather permitting, it means he unties the vow. Okay, let me see what the Lashon I used over here. Just 1 second. Mm-hmm. Dissolving. Yeah, I use the term dissolving. Think that the expert in Nal's vows use the expression of HaTorah, dissolving. And the husband, carry on, Ubal.
Let's see. But a husband revokes his wife's vow through wording of nullification.
Right.
Lashon
HaKosuv Khan.
Lashon HaKosuv Khan, like the language of the verse here. V'im chilfu, if.
They switched one with the other, meaning the Chacham used as a Lashon of Hafara. Or the father or the husband used the Lashon of HaTorah, doesn't help.
Mutar.
Ein mutar ve'ein mufar.
Mufar. The vow is neither permitted nor nullified.
Right. Now, I just want to point out as follows. The Gemara says there's a difference between the way it's not just a matter of semantics, right? The actual words used. It's the way the Chacham is matir neder means he shows that the person's intention when he made the neder was never for this situation. That's or the Gemara actually discussed it. That's through Pesach. That means he finds a Pesach in the neder. Means had you known that this would have been, had you known then that this would have been the situation now, would you have made the neder? And if the person says no, I never would have made the neder. So provided it's something which was likely to happen, what's happened now, or the circumstances already maybe had already happened, but he just didn't know about it. So both those circumstances, the Chacham can be matter the neder. You can release the neder by saying, well, you made the neder under under misapprehension. And therefore, really, if you had known really what the facts were, or what things were going to be, were likely to be, you would never have made the neder, so then the neder was never a neder. So it's as if it uproots the neder from, it was called meikara. Oka neder meikara means it uproots the neder as if it never was. Whereas when the husband nullifies, he's mefer the neder, it's the husband or the father for a young girl, as we're going to see in the Hemshech HaPsukim. When he does that, he doesn't have to investigate anything. He just says, oh, you had a neder till now? Chop. No longer a neder. Finished. Without any rhyme or reason. Okay, I mean, it has to have some sort of rhyme or reason because it has to be something which is, it disturbs him. The neder is something between so particularly between a husband and wife, that the wife, having been bound by the neder, disturbs the husband. Right? So something which upsets him. Let's take a face. She makes a neder not to eat chocolate, right? And the husband knows his wife that if she doesn't eat chocolate, she gets really, she's going to be a nervous wreck, right? She's going to be totally agitated or whatever. So he doesn't want that. So he can say, no, I'm not, and I don't agree. I don't want my wife to make a neder not to eat chocolate. Okay? Okay. So that's the difference. So the Lashon HaTorah means to uproot the neder as if the neder never was. And that's how the Chacham releases the neder. He dissolves the neder by saying that the neder never existed. Whereas when the husband annuls the neder, it means it was existent till now, but from this point on, it is no longer existent. That's hafara. That's to nullify. Okay. Yeah. Continue. Let's continue. Meir Pasuk Gimel.
Okay, Gimel says, Ish ki dur neder laHashem, o hishava shavua le'asur isar al nafsho lo yachel dvaro b'chol hayotze mipiv ya'aseh. Okay, so if a man takes a vow to Hashem, or he swears an oath to prohibit a prohibition on himself, he shall not profane his word. According to whatever comes from his mouth shall he do.
His mouth utters, so shall he do.
Right. Okay, Rashi. Neder, a vow. Okay.
Now, Rashi is going to explain what is the difference between, there's two terms which the Torah uses for vows, it's in general. The term neder and the term shavua. What is the difference between them?
Okay. So Haomer, one who says, Hare alai konam. see now, I take on myself a konam. Huh.
I'll explain what the word. I'll explain what it means. Konam is how do you call it? A euphemism, which Chazal instituted Dafka to use this euphemism rather than the actual word itself for a korban, a sacrifice. So somebody says to himself, he takes, let's say, a loaf of bread, and he says, this loaf of bread should be forbidden to me in the same way as a korban is forbidden for me.
Mm-hmm.
Then that is called a neder. And that in what respect, why is it called a neder, not a shvua? Means because he's put the prohibition on the object, not on himself. He said this object is a forbidden object. It's an object which we're not allowed to have benefit from. In the same way as one's not allowed to have benefit from a korban before it's been sacrificed. And for a korban before it's been sacrificed one may not derive any personal benefit from it. It has to be brought to the Beis Hamikdash, it has to be slaughtered. After it's slaughtered and the parts which are supposed to be burnt on the Mizbeach have been separated and designated to be brought on the Mizbeach, then the Bailim are allowed to eat the rest of the korban if it's a korban shlomim or a korban toido or any other kind of korban which comes under the category of kodshim kalim, which is lighter korban, lighter kodshim. So there, kodshim kalim, generally, you have three parts to it. There's the parts, the fats, which are offered burnt up on the Mizbeach. There's a part which is given to the Kohen, which is known as that parts are choze v'shoik, the breast and the front, upper front foreleg, and upper right foreleg. Okay, that's the shoik, choze v'shoik. That's given to the Kohanim to eat, and they eat it, but they can eat it anywhere in Yerushalayim. And the owners eat the rest of the animal. So that's why it's the terminology of Chazal. It's actually the Torah also calls it a shlomim. A korban, such a thing which has everybody can partake of it. The Mizbeach partakes a part, the Kohanim eat a part, and the owners eat a part. That's called shlomim because everybody's happy, right? It makes peace between everybody. That's why it's called a shlomim. Okay? But that's all after it's been shechted and the required, the blood has, the service with the blood, meaning splashing it or placing it or whatever has been done properly on the Mizbeach. Then after that's been done, then the rest of the korban, the meat of the korban is divided into three. The fats are offered on the Mizbeach, the Kohanim get the choze v'shoik, and the Bailim get the rest. Okay? But prior to Shechita, it's forbidden to have anah from it. So somebody says about this loaf of bread, takes a loaf of bread, and he says, this loaf of bread, I want it to have a din like a korban. Then that he's made the kikar forbidden to have derive any benefit from it, in the same way it's forbidden to derive any benefit from a korban before it's been shechted. Okay? Wow. However, Chazal did not want the actual term korban to be used, so they use the name koinam instead. So somebody says, koinam olai. So it's interesting why Rashi says, shaloi oicha, that I mustn't eat, because we'll see that phraseology can complicate matters. But the standard neder is somebody says, this kikar, for instance, this loaf of bread should be forbidden to me, olai, like a kona. Like kona means it's forbidden to me like a korban. Then the kikar is forbidden, and not only is he forbidden to eat it, but anybody else is forbidden to eat it. Okay? There's also a type of a neder which is similar, is I can go to your loaf of bread, even though it's not mine, and say, your loaf of bread, but it should be forbidden for me to eat it. But I'm putting the onus of the prohibition not on myself, but on the object, that this object should be forbidden for me to eat. Okay? That's what Rashi says. Right?
Okay. Oh, sure.
Now, that's a neder. A shvua means somebody says, I make an oath that I will not do something. So that is, he's put the onus of the prohibition on himself. Let's say he says, I'm not going to eat this loaf of bread. I make a vow, shavua, that I'm not going to eat this loaf of bread. That's a shvua. That's an oath, right? Where he's put the prohibition on himself, not on the object. Okay, so that's what Rashi says. Okay. Now, the Oy Shelo Yaseh Davar Ploni is really referring to a shavua, an oath. Carry on. Yochol.
Okay. Yachol.
I might think.
Okay. Afilu nishba, that if one swears, sheyochal nevelot. Oh, he will not eat nevela. Okay. Ani correct.
Not that he won't. He will eat. He makes a vow.
Oh, he will eat. Yeah, but he's not.
Right.
Okay.
Ani koire olav. I say about him.
Say about him. B'chol hayotzei mipiv yaseh. That what comes out of his mouth, he shall do.
Right. So therefore, he means he must eat nevela.
Oh, so Talmud Lomar, but the Torah says.
No. Le'esar isar. That when can he say, when does a shvua, when does it apply that his prohibition will come into effect when he says, or whatever he's uttered, the words he has uttered when he says a shvua, I make an oath that I will do something or not do something. That's dafka where it's lesser isor, where to create a prohibition.
Ah.
That's what Rashi considers. Lesser is a mutter, the lahati is also. Means the Torah says lesser isor means to create a prohibition upon himself. But if something is prohibited and now he wants to create that it should become permitted for him, no way, he can't do that.
Can't do that.
So it says, lesser is hamuter, to prohibit something that's permitted for him. Then he can make a shvua. But not to permit something that's forbidden.
Uh-huh. Okay. So the next Rashi, Lo Yachel Devaro, Kamo, Lo Yechalel Devaro.
The word Yachel is of the same root as to Lo Yechalel.
Oh, to profane his word. Oh,
right.
Okay. So he shouldn't do that. Lo Yaseh Devarav Chulin. So he should not make
his words
profane. Wow.
Meaning, as if he's saying, I said something, and then he doesn't go, he's not going to do anything. He says, what I said was nothing.
Uh-huh.
By the way, the whole idea of here, this union of a person, how can a person do such a thing? He just says words, and the thing will be, he creates a prohibition, or he imposes himself an obligation. He's just said words. So here we see from here the Torah, the whole idea behind vows and oaths, etc. The whole idea behind it is to teach us the power of the word.
Oh,
Right? A person can just say something and his words have an effect.
right.
Effect to that make him, let's say, prohibited to do something or obligated to do something just because merely he just said those words, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. Obviously, he has to say B'lashon Neder or B'lashon Shvua. If he just says, somebody says, I'm going to Tel Aviv tomorrow, right? Then he's not obliged to go to Tel Aviv tomorrow, just because he says, I'm going to. So the Gemara says, Dvorim ein bahem mishum mechusa amona. Doesn't says words. He's going to do something without the effect of an oath or a vow. Then there's nothing obliging him to fulfill. There's an union of midvar sheker tirchak. Person should distance himself from falsehood. Okay? But a person says he's going to do something, and then he doesn't do it. Maybe there are circumstances which prevented him from doing it or whatever, but he is not considered somebody now who lacks trust or lacks faith. Because it could be various reasons. He said he was going to do it, so it didn't work out. Obviously, he says about the past, and he says an untruth. That's Mamash saying a sheker. That's saying a lie, a falsehood. But to say that he's going to do so. But if he says, I make an oath that I'm going to do this, right? Even if he says, I promise I'm going to do this, it's not necessarily is considered an oath. Because just saying I promise doesn't mean anything. But if he says I make an oath, Shavua, I make an oath that I'm going to do this, then the Choya does now, he's bound now to do it by an oath. One thing, other point I wanted to mention over here. I don't remember. Okay, let's go on to Pasuk Dalet. Lou.
Dalet.
Hello? Pasuk Dalet. The Isha.
The Isha ki sidor neder Lashem v'asra isar beves aviha bina ureha. But if the woman will take a vow to Hashem to prohibit a prohibition in her father's house in her youth, beves aviha, bereshus aviha.
Now, by the way, this is a pasuk, is a run on to the next pasuk. It says a woman who makes a vow to Hashem, or she prohibits a prohibition upon herself in her father's house when she is a Nara. Now, Rashi says, beves aviha. We just read that, Lou. Read again.
Bereshus aviha, with the permission of her father.
Or when she's under her father's jurisdiction. That's a better way of doesn't mean her father doesn't have to particularly permit her to do it. It means she's in a situation, right, when she's under her father's jurisdiction. The point is what Rashi wants to say, even if she's not in his house. When the Torah says over here, beves aviha, doesn't mean in his physical house, but it means under his authority. Okay?
Bina urim, bina ureha, in her youth, below kitana, but not if she is a minor, below bogeres, nor if she is mature.
Right.
Shehak tana ein nidra neder. For a minor, her vow is not a vow. V'ha bogeres eina birushuso shel aviha. And for one who is mature, she's not under the authority of her father. Lahafer nidareha, for him to nullify her vows. The Ezo he kitana, and who is a minor? Amru Rabosenu, rabbis have said, Ba achat esrei shana v'yom echad, a girl who is at least 11 years old in one day.
Right. By the way, it doesn't mean she's 11 years old. It means she's already into her 12th year.
Nidareha nivdakin, her vows are examined.
Right.
Im yada, if she understands, l'shem mi nidra, for whose sake she is vowing, u'l'shem mi hikdisha, and for whose sake she is consecrating, nidra neder, her vow is a vow. Bas shtayim
That's
at esrei
Ashtemesrei, when she's 12,
shana v'yom echad.
Yeah.
She's 12 in one day. Eina tericha libadek. She does not need to be examined.
right? Which means as follows, that when she's 11 years old, so if she knows what she's talking about, and she has fully, we realize that when she made the statement, she made a neder or a shvur, she meant it seriously, then her vow is valid. That means if she said about a loaf, this loaf is asa koinem kikazeh, this loaf of bread should be asa like a korban, and if she said it and it belonged to her, let's say, then the loaf becomes forbidden, and nobody is allowed to have any benefit from it. Even though she has no obligation to keep her vows, meaning for herself to have benefit from it, midoraisa, she's not forbidden. Midrabanan, she would be, but midoraisa, she's not forbidden because she's not at the age that she's obliged to do mitzvahs, because she's below the age of 12. But nevertheless, what she has said is effective in that, as far as others are concerned, her vow is a good vow. And therefore, if she's placed a prohibition upon this loaf of bread, then the loaf of bread becomes forbidden for everybody. Okay? So it depends, from the age 11, it depends on her level of intelligence to see whether she's really knows what she's talking about or not. But from the age of 12, we can assume, even without checking, that she's on the required level of intelligence to make a vow. That's the age when she reaches the first stage of puberty, of maturity. Okay? Very good. We'll stop here, go to the end of Parsha 4. Very good. Okay.
Shkayak, very
Fine.
good.
Great day. Be well.
You too, Rabbi. Be well.
Positive.
Okay. Take care, Lou. Be well.
Okay, Mayor, have a good day.